Something unexpected just happened with one of Hollywood's most beloved couples, and fans across the country are still talking about it. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos, two names synonymous with morning television, Hollywood romance, and that rare, electric chemistry you just can't fake, have opened up about a life change so big, so emotional, and so deeply personal that even the most dedicated fans didn't see it coming. And when they finally broke their silence about it on live national television, the reaction was immediate. So, what exactly happened? Let's get into it. If you spent any morning this past year reaching for your remote and tuning in to ABC, you already know the magic that happens when Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos share that iconic Live with Kelly and Mark desk. The banter, the laughter, the barely contained inside jokes of two people who have genuinely been in love for nearly 3 decades. It's the kind of thing you can't manufacture, and audiences everywhere feel it. But behind all of that warmth and wit, something has been quietly shifting in the Consuelos household. Something big. Something that's been building for years. And when Kelly and Mark finally brought it to the surface on camera in front of millions, it hit harder than anyone expected. Because this wasn't just celebrity news. This was a real family milestone. The kind that most parents can relate to in a deeply human way. To understand the full weight of this moment, you have to go back to the beginning, or at least close to it. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos first met on the set of the long-running ABC soap opera All My Children back in 1995. It was one of those classic soap opera love stories that jumped right off the screen and into real life. They eloped in 1996, and what followed was nearly 30 years of marriage that Hollywood has consistently struggled to explain, because stories like theirs simply don't happen very often. 3 kids followed. Their oldest son, Michael, their daughter, Lola, and their youngest, Joaquin. And through every career milestone, every ratings battle, every public appearance and red carpet moment, their family remained their anchor. Kelly, of course, has been the queen of morning television for over 25 years, first alongside Regis Philbin, then Michael Strahan, then Ryan Seacrest, and finally, in 2023, alongside the one person who had always been her perfect on-screen match, her own husband. Mark Consuelos officially joined Liv as full-time co-host in April of 2023, and the chemistry? Instantaneous. Undeniable. The ratings reflected it. The fans reflected it. Everything clicked. But even as the show was thriving, life at home was quietly changing in a way that no amount of career success could prepare them for. Here's where the story takes a turn that genuinely moved fans. For years, Kelly and Mark had openly joked about the looming reality of becoming empty nesters. Kelly once quipped, famously, that the moment Joaquin moved out, she and Mark were going to be totally naked at all times around the house. Funny, relatable, classic Kelly. But when the moment actually came, it was a whole different story. When Joaquin finally left for the University of Michigan, Kelly described the experience on air as brutally painful. Her exact words. She said, and this is the part that struck fans deepest, "I did not realize that 18 years would go so fast." That raw honesty hit millions of parents in the chest. Because that's not a celebrity talking. That's a mother. That's every mother. And then, just when you thought the empty nest chapter was settling in, 2026 arrived and completely rewrote the script. On January 21st, 2026, during a regular episode of Live with Kelly and Mark, Kelly made an announcement that stopped the studio audience cold. She looked out at the cameras with barely contained excitement and said, and we're paraphrasing here, "You see this man right here? He's going to Broadway." That's right. Mark Consuelos, soap opera star, talk show host, internet's favorite husband, was heading to Broadway. He would be starring in a revival of Noel Coward's Fallen Angels, directed by Scott Ellis, alongside Broadway powerhouses Rose Byrne and Kelly O'Hara. Mark's debut performance was set for spring 2026, his very first time on a Broadway stage. But that wasn't the end of the announcement. Kelly took a breath, looked at her husband, and then revealed the second part, the one that made the audience audibly gasp. Their youngest son, Joaquin, was also going to Broadway at almost the exact same time, in a revival of Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, alongside Nathan Lane, Laurie Metcalf, and Christopher Abbott, some of the most respected names in American theater. Father and son, on Broadway, simultaneously, in different plays, going up against each other. Mark joked about it immediately. We're going up against each other. The audience laughed. But underneath that humor was something genuinely extraordinary, a family legacy unfolding in real time on the most storied stages in the world. Social media didn't walk, it ran. Within hours of the announcement, Live with Kelly and Mark was trending. Fans flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with reactions that ranged from tearful to triumphant. One viewer summed it up perfectly online, writing, "Kelly and Mark make mornings feel real again. You can feel their connection. It's not scripted, it's genuine." Others were quick to point out what made this story different from typical celebrity headlines, because this wasn't just about fame. It was about a family that had built something real over 30 years, watching that work show up in the next generation. Joaquin opened in Death of a Salesman at the Winter Garden Theater on April 9th, 2026. And when Kelly and Mark talked about it on air just days later, on the April 13th episode of Live, something shifted in the studio. They admitted something that surprised a lot of fans. They had doubted themselves. When Joaquin first told them he wanted to pursue acting and attend drama school, they weren't sure. They questioned whether it was the right path. They hesitated in the way all loving parents hesitate when a child chooses a road that's uncertain. And then Joaquin walked out onto a Broadway stage and proved them beautifully, completely wrong. Kelly called watching him perform remarkable. And you could hear in her voice that the word wasn't chosen casually. It was chosen because it was the only word that was accurate. Here's what makes this story resonate beyond the celebrity world, beyond the glamour of Broadway and the reach of national television. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have never pretended their life is perfect. They've always been willing to be honest on camera, sometimes hilariously, sometimes vulnerably, in a way that draws people in rather than pushing them away. When Kelly cried describing dropping Joaquin off at college, when Mark admitted on air that co-hosting Live Together had changed the rhythm of their daily life in unexpected ways, when they talked candidly about learning to navigate being partners in every sense of the word, as spouses, as parents, and now as colleagues sharing a morning television show 5 days a week. That transparency is rare, and it's earned them something that most celebrities never quite manage: genuine affection. Not admiration from a distance, actual warmth. The Broadway chapter added a new dimension to all of it. Because now this couple, who met on a soap opera set, raised 3 children, built careers across 2 decades of television, and made America laugh every morning, was watching their family step into the spotlight in its own right. Lola Consuelos is pursuing a music career in London. Michael is building his path in New York. And Joaquin just made his Broadway debut at 22 years old, playing young Biff in one of the most celebrated productions of the 2026 theater season. And on June 7, 2026, Kelly and Mark walked the red carpet at the Tony Awards at Radio City Music Hall. Not just as celebrities, as a family celebrating something that no award could fully capture. That night, Death of a Salesman took home the Tony for Best Revival of a Play. And somewhere in that audience, 2 parents sat knowing that their son had been part of something history would remember. What Kelly and Mark have built on Live with Kelly and Mark is more than a talk show. It's a daily ritual for millions of Americans. It's the first familiar voices of the morning. It's a place where real life, with all its beauty and messiness and surprise, gets to show up unfiltered. And what's happened with their family this year has only deepened that connection with their audience. Because when viewers tune in and see Kelly's pride in her son's Broadway debut, or Mark's excitement about stepping onto a stage for the first time, or both of them laughing through the surreal reality of being empty nesters who somehow ended up going to the Tony Awards, it doesn't feel like entertainment. It feels like watching real people live a real life, just on a slightly larger stage. The Live franchise has evolved through the years, through different co-hosts, different formats, different cultural moments. But the version anchored by Kelly and Mark has found something durable, something rooted. And moments like these, family milestones shared openly with an audience that has watched this couple for years, are exactly why. Nearly 30 years ago, Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos were two actors on a soap opera falling in love. Today, they are co-hosts, life partners, and the proud parents of three remarkable young adults who are carving their own paths. The empty nest they once joked about arrived. The Broadway dreams became Broadway opening nights. The major life change that nobody quite saw coming turned out to be exactly this: a family in full bloom, stepping into a new chapter together, and bringing millions of viewers along for the ride. Some things in Hollywood are fleeting. What Kelly and Mark have built, on screen and off, looks a lot like the real thing. And their story, it's still being written. So we want to hear from you. Are you a fan of Kelly and Mark on Live? What was your reaction to hearing that both Mark and Joaquin made their Broadway debuts in the same season? Drop it in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this celebrity update, subscribe for more entertainment news and Hollywood stories. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment. We'll see you in the next one.